Senate will please come to order. The Senate will please come to order. All those not having privileges of the floor will please vacate the chamber. With those on the floor and our guests in the gallery, please rise as we are led in prayer this morning by Pastor Betsy Kelly of Vienna, West Virginia, and she is the daughter of the delegate from the 10th District, Delegate John Kelly. And then please remain standing as we are led in the pledge this morning by the Senator from Marion, Pastor Kelly.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for another glorious day in the Mountain State and for graciously letting your light shine down upon us. It is truly an honor to live among the mountains and valleys you have created in this land. We come to you today together in belief that you will open the hearts and minds of our legislators as they work tirelessly to improve the lives of so many wonderful people here in West Virginia, so that we may all work together to create a stronger and brighter future for generations to come. There is no group of people in this world more dedicated to their homes and families than those with blue and gold in their blood. And having you on our side, Lord, gives us the strength. For this, we are grateful, and so it is in your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Kelly. The Senator from Marion.
Would the guests in the gallery and the members on the floor please stand with me as we give honor to our flag and our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Reading of the Journal.
West Virginia Legislature Senate Journal, February 2nd, 2018. The Senate met at 11:08 a.m.
The Senator from Greenbrier requests unanimous consent that further reading of the Journal be dispensed with and that it be approved as having been read. Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Introduction of guests. On behalf of the Senate, it is my pleasure to welcome our honorary pages for the day. Please stand and be recognized as your name is called. As a guest of the Senator from Cabell, we have Gracie Black and Abby Shepard. As guest of the junior senator from the 8th, we have Alex Mobley and Kennedy Cahan. As guest of the senator from Kanawha, we have John Ward. As guest of the junior senator from the 5th, we have Kirsten Cooper. And as guest of the senator from Greenbrier, we have Jackson Williams, Lauren Ballard, Emma Ballard, Madison Vass, and Morgan Vass. If they would all please stand and the Senate make them welcome. Further introductions. The Senator from Ohio County.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's my pleasure to introduce, on behalf of the West Virginia Academy of Family Physicians, our doc for the day. We have Dr. Joanna Bailey of Pineville, West Virginia. If the Senate would please make her welcome.
Further introductions. Further introductions. The Senator from Wood County.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the senior senator from the 3rd, and myself, my pastor, I don't know where he is, but Pastor John Lands, supposed to be here this morning. Where is he? There you are. Okay, Pastor John Lands and his son Ryan Lands. And if they would both stand, and appreciate them coming down, and if the Senate would make them feel welcome. Thank you.
Further introductions. The Senator from Brooke County.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is my pleasure that this week I will have with me as a Fraser Singleton intern, Darren Johnson. Darren is a junior at Bethany College in Bethany. He's going to be here with us this week helping us out. So welcome, Darren.
Senator from Nicholas County.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of my fellow senator from the 11th, and you, Mr. President, sitting in the South Gallery today, we have representatives of the Elkins-Randolph County Library. It is Library Day here in the Capitol. If Stephanie Murphy and Sienna Eisenhart would please rise, and if the Senate would please extend them a very warm welcome.
The Senator from Jefferson County.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the senior senator from the 16th, I am pleased to welcome several representatives of the library from our district. From Martinsburg, Berkeley County, we have Gretchen Fry, David Porterfield, and Kelly Tanksley. And from the Shepherdstown Public Library, we have Haley Taylor and Sandy Brown. Will the Senate please make them feel welcome?
Senator from Marshall County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too have a Fraser Singleton intern that I'll be sharing this week with the senator from Wetzel. Her name is Brooke Breyer. She's standing in the back there, and I was kind enough to walk her in 3 minutes late today, so I apologize for that, Brooke. She's from West Virginia Northern Community College, and she'll be here all week.
The senior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the junior senator from the 17th and the senators from the 8th, today we have with us Honorary Secretary of States for the day. The Honorary Secretary of State program recognizes high school students from across the state who have been leaders in voter registration among their classmates. Today from St. Albans High School, we have Emma Huffman, Ela Inyavon, and Kelsey Reynolds. If they could stand, they're also accompanied by Secretary of State Mac Warner and Inspire West Virginia Program Coordinator Olivia McCuskey. If they could stand, the Senate make them feel welcome.
The junior senator from the 8th.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of my senior senator from the 8th, we have two of our pages that are here today and are accompanied by their parents. Jeremy Kalin, Melissa Harper, and Catherine Mose. If they would stand and the Senate make them welcome, please.
Senator from Cabell County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today we have with us the parents of one of our pages, Kirsten Cooper. Her parents are seated in the South Gallery, and they're good friends from Cabell County, Mark and Cindy Cooper. Will you please stand and be welcome? Also, Mr. President, we have in the President's Gallery here with Gracie Black and Abby Shepard, two of our other pages, Chris and Christy Black. Would you please stand and be welcomed by the Senate?
Senator from Harrison County.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is my pleasure and the pleasure of my senior senator from Braxton to introduce a couple of people today who do so much for the youth in our communities. They're both library directors. I believe they're up here in the gallery somewhere. From the Clarksburg Public Library, Gil Rafter, and from the Burnsville Public Library, Beth Anderson. If you're up in there, please stand and please welcome them.
The senator from Greenbrier County.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of my senior senator from the 10th, I would like to welcome the parents of our pages who are here today. And if you all please stand as I announce your name so we can welcome you. Michelle Bland, Jennifer Vass, and Gary Williams. Will the Senate please make these parents of our pages feel welcome?
Further introductions? Further introductions. Communications from the House.
The Clerk of the House announced the passage by that body of engrossed House Bill 2612, repealing section relating to unattended motor vehicles and penalties.
The message will be received and referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Engrossed committee substitute for House Bill 4138, requiring certain public or private schools and daycare centers to install carbon monoxide detectors.
The report will be received and referred to the Committee on the Judiciary. Further communications from the House?
No, sir.
Communications from the Executive?
There are none.
Reports from standing committees?
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Joint Resolution 3, Judicial Budget Oversight Amendment, and reports back a committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute be adopted, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on Finance. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
The report will be received and under the bill's original double committee reference will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
That's all I have, sir.
Communication or reports from select committees?
There are none.
Introduction of bills. The senator from Ohio County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Requesting unanimous consent that Senate Bill number 478 through Senate Bill number 487 be considered and introduced, read by their titles, and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system.
Senator from Ohio County requests unanimous consent that Senate Bill number 478 through Senate Bill number 487 be considered introduced, read by their titles, and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system. Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Senate will be at ease while we wait on our guests from Wyoming County. Should just be a few minutes. Order. Senate will please come to order. Resolutions.
Senate Resolution 26 by Senators Klein, Plymel, and Unger congratulating the Wyoming East High School golf team for winning the 2017 Class AA State Championship.
The Senator from Wyoming County.
Mr. President, I request unanimous...
Senator from Wyoming County requests unanimous consent that the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration, committee reference be dispensed with, and that the resolution be placed upon its adoption. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Clerk will please read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 26 congratulating the Wyoming East High School golf team for winning the 2017 Class AA State Championship.
Question before the Senate is adoption of resolution. Is there discussion? The Senator from Wyoming County.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is my honor, along with the junior senator from the 9th, to welcome back the Wyoming East High School golf team. I would like to recognize the team on being the 2017 West Virginia Class AA back-to-back state golf championship champions. The team also had 2 members earned all state honors. Thank you for joining us in this session. Please welcome them and give them a round of applause. We're very proud of them.
Further discussion? Further discussion? Further discussion? Not. The question before the Senate is adoption of resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the resolution adopted. Senator from Ohio County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Requesting unanimous consent. The remarks by the Senator from Wyoming be printed in the appendix of the Journal.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Senator from Wyoming. So ordered. Senator from Ohio County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate stand in brief recess to present the resolution.
Senator from Ohio moves that the Senate stand in brief recess for the purpose of presenting this resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the Senate in brief recess to present this resolution. Senate will please come to order. Senate will please come to order. Further resolution?
Senate Resolution 27 by Senators Beach, Prezioso, Plymel, Unger, and Stallings, celebrating the achievements and contributions of athletes from Marion County.
The Senator from Monongalia County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent to the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration, committee reference be dispensed with, and the resolution be placed upon its adoption.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Clerk will read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 27, celebrating the achievements and contributions of athletes from Marion County to the great state of West Virginia.
Question before the Senate is adoption of the resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the resolution adopted. Clerk will communicate the action. Motions. Petitions.
There are none.
Unfinished business.
There is none.
Bills on third reading.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 244, specifying conditions for unlawful possession of firearm at school-sponsored activities.
Senator from Ohio County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Request unanimous consent the bill lie over 1 day, retaining its place on the calendar.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. So ordered.
Engrossed Senate Bill 322, relating to employees of Department of Agriculture. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senior senator from the 8th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 322 amends Section 19 of the Code and really is a very simple bill whose purpose is to allow the Commissioner of Agriculture to hire a general counsel and other support staff as needed to assist. Currently, the Attorney General must provide legal services to the Department of Agriculture, and I'm told that Department of Agriculture is the only executive agency that does not have a general counsel. That's the purpose of the bill. Happy to try to answer questions. Otherwise, I urge passage.
Further discussion? If not, all those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, there being 33 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent and not voting, more than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed Senate Bill 343, limiting expenses and preparing list for notice to redeem. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senior senator from the 8th.
Thank you again, Mr. President. Senate Bill 343 comes through the Government Organization Committee where it passed. The purpose of the bill is to increase the amount that can be received from the purchaser for such expenses, including title exams, and raises the fee from $200 to $500 to bring us in line with the current standards. Happy to try to answer any questions. Otherwise, urge passage.
Further discussion? If not, all those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, there being 32 yeas, 1 nay, 1 absent and not voting, more than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed Senate Bill 364, allowing parent or legal guardian of homeschooled child provide signed statement for obtaining permit or license to operate motor vehicle. Third reading of the bill.
The question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senator from Monroe County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 364, allowing a parent or legal guardian of homeschooled child signed a statement for obtaining the permit to operate the motor vehicle. This bill relates to the section of code making school attendance a condition of obtaining a driver's license permit. It provides that the parent or legal guardian of a homeschooled child can provide a signed statement in lieu of the driver eligibility certificate signed by the attendance director or chief administrator, affirming that the child is being educated in accordance with law and is making satisfactory academic progress and meets the conditions to be eligible to obtain a driver's license. And what we found out in this in the past, there's some loopholes going on with, I think of a lot of our homeschool students have come in to try to get the permit, and you know, most of the time the public school's not aware of this child and what their, you know, education history has in it, so there's a delay process happening. And, you know, we don't want to tie this up anymore, get these kids their license, they've earned it, and the parent in the code is considered the teacher/principal of that child, and they can sign off on that, and they would be able to go to the DMV with that, their own form, and get their license. So I'll be happy to try to answer any questions, but I urge passage of the bill.
Further discussion? Further discussion? If not, all those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, there being 33 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent and not voting, more than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed Senate Bill 393 relating to compensation and composition of West Virginia Racing Commission.
Senator from Ohio County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Requesting unanimous consent the bill over one day retaining its place on the calendar.
Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered.
Engrossed Senate Bill 400 prohibiting state licensing boards from hiring lobbyists. Third reading of the bill.
The question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senior senator from the 8th.
Thank you, Mr. President. The purpose of Senate Bill 400 is to create a new section of code, which will be Section 22, that would forbid a state licensing board from hiring or contracting with a lobbyist to perform lobbying functions on behalf of the board. The bill expressly gives permission to any director or appointed board member to perform those advocacy functions. Some examples of boards that have hired outside lobbyists over the years include the SSAC, the Board of Barbers and Cosmetologists, the Board of Medicine, the Board of Examiners in Speech and Language Pathology and Audiology, Board of Child Care, and Investment Management Board. This bill, or this legislation is pending in many other states, about 10 more that I'm told currently as we consider it. I'd be happy to try to answer questions. Otherwise, I urge passage.
Further discussion? The senator from Monongalia County.
Gentleman yield.
Does Senator yield? Senator does yield.
Well, a real quick question, Chairman. In regards to these individuals who are permitted to lobby that are on the board presently, do they have to go through the credentialing process as a lobbyist, or is that just come in and lobby whoever they need to?
No, sir, they would not have to go through any credentialing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Further discussion? Further discussion? Not, all those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, there being 33 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent and not voting, more than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk has a title amendment.
Committee on Government Organization moved to amend the title of the bill.
Question before the Senate is adoption of the title amendment. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the title amendment adopted. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed Senate Bill 430 encouraging collaborative agreements between community and technical colleges and federally registered apprenticeship programs.
The senator from Ohio County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Requesting unanimous consent the bill lie over one day retaining its place on the calendar.
Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered.
Engrossed committee substitute for House Bill 4020 making technical corrections in the code when referencing Chapter 49. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senator from Morgan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. The House Bill 4020 is now the strike and insert amendment that we adopted on Friday, and I went through that a little bit with the body on Friday when we adopted the strike and insert amendment. It amends a whole bunch of sections in the code in various chapters. Chapter 7, Chapter 15, Chapter 16, Chapter 17C, Chapter 18, 18A, Chapters 31, 48, Chapter 49, Chapter 61, all correcting technical cross-references in the code, largely dealing with abuse and neglect cases. There is a definitional change in the bill in the definition of an abused child, and that definition is expanded a little bit now to include a child who is the victim of human trafficking and a child who is conceived as a result of a sexual assault. Those are both now going to be defined as abused children, and the definitional change there also makes it clear that the woman who is the victim of the sexual assault is not deemed to be an abusing parent, even though her child is deemed to be an abused child. I'll be happy to try to answer any questions. Otherwise, urge passage of the bill.
Further discussion? Further discussion? If not, all those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, there being 33 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent and not voting, more than a majority of those present and voting, having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk has a title amendment.
Committee on the Judiciary move to amend the title of the bill.
Question before the Senate is adoption of the title amendment. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the title amendment adopted. The clerk will please communicate the action of the Senate to the House. Further bills on third reading?
No, sir.
Bills on second reading?
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 102, creating West Virginia Uniform Fiduciary Access to Digital Assets Act. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
If not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 181, authorizing MAPS promulgate legislative rules. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
If not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Senate Bill 425, removing sunset dates which members of Policemen's or Firemen's Pension Fund elect to participate in Deferred Retirement Option Plan. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
If not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Senate Bill 462, establishing contribution holiday for public pension plans funded at 130% or more. Second reading of the bill.
Excuse me, are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
If not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Senate Bill 463, establishing group to examine benefits and need of transferring milk rules and regulations from DHHR to agriculture. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
If not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Engrossed committee substitute for House Bill 4013, clarifying venue in West Virginia state courts as it applies to non-residents of the state. Second reading of the bill.
What senator is the senator from? Are there amendments to the bill?
Yes, sir. The Committee on the Judiciary moved to amend the bill by striking out everything.
Senator from Morgan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent to explain the committee amendment in lieu of having it read.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Senator may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. The House bill, committee substitute for Senate Bill or House Bill 4013, addresses venue. And it addresses it only basically with respect to actions by people who are not residents of the state of West Virginia. The committee amendment kept all that. It's essentially the House bill, but added a couple other aspects and provisions to the bill, again, all relating to venue. The changes are in Chapter 14, Article 2, Section 2, and 14 Article 2 Section 2A, and those relate to actions for suits against the state of West Virginia and suits under the Open Governmental Proceedings Act. So what the changes made by the Judiciary Committee will permit are suits that are filed against the state of West Virginia. If there's BRIM coverage, they can be brought not only in the Circuit Court of Kanawha County, but in the Circuit Court of any county where the action arose. And with respect to suits that are challenges to actions of a governing board under the Open Governmental Meetings Act, they can be brought, proper venue for those, either Circuit Court of Kanawha County or the county in which the governing board or state agency regularly meets. Mr. President, I'd be happy to try to answer questions regarding the amendment. Otherwise, I urge its adoption.
Further discussion? Further discussion? Not. Question before the Senate is adoption of the committee amendment as offered by the Senator from Morgan. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the committee amendment adopted. Are there further amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Not. The bill will be advanced. Further bill, bills on first reading? Senator from Ohio County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Request unanimous consent that all bills on first reading be considered as having been read and advanced to second reading.
Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Introduction of guest. Remarks by members of the Senate. The Senator from Logan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last week on Thursday, I stood on this floor and offered an amendment that would have ensured the internet remains open within our state. Every argument in opposition to that amendment was that Senate Bill 10 was not the right place for it, but instead that we do need to look at my bill creating a West Virginia Net Neutrality Act. In fact, many of you stated that you are not opposed to this bill, Senate Bill 396. The current bill sits in the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee and has a second reference to the judiciary. I just arrived today to urge you, Mr. President, and your leadership team to put Senate Bill 396 on the agenda and allow this discussion over this bill. Thank you.
The Senator from Monongalia County.
Thank you, Mr. President. And ladies and gentlemen, earlier today, myself and the Senator from Marion County and others had a resolution before us honoring sports history in Marion County. I didn't speak to the bill earlier because I wanted an opportunity to kind of tie it in with a piece of legislation that just came up today as well, Senate Bill 480, which creates a West Virginia Sports Hall of Fame Commission. And I'm going to read a few things from the Marion County resolution, but I want you to keep your own county and district in mind because as we did our research, as my staff did the research about sports history and those individuals across the state, every county, every district had someone of notable recognition who's in a sports hall of fame someplace else in the world, whether it be NFL or in a professional baseball league of some sort. They're out there. And I just want to read a few of these names that are just from Marion County. I didn't bring Mon County into this. Obviously, there's a few there, and same way with Harrison and numerous other counties in north central West Virginia. Of course, we all heard of Mary Lou Retton, 1984 Olympic gymnast. Other names that pop up are individuals within the county there that attended high school and did quite well in their career. 1949 and 1953, we had a Mary Boswell, who played for the men's tennis team in Marion County for the high school there. And she went on later to varsity that sport at Fairmont State from 52 to 53. And she was recognized as super seniors in the World Championships later on in her life. That was in 2007. You know, Marion County's had some very distinguished individuals come out of that county in regards to sports, and that's what we're celebrating. But the intent of the museum or the foundation or the commission itself is to celebrate, acknowledge that sports history. I'm a history buff. If I'm out traveling anywhere in the world, if it's a tiny little museum, I'm visiting it. If it's a large one, I'm visiting it. But we have others who have come from Fairmont over the years. Dave Tork, retired pole vaulter. He's also set a record and played in the Pan American Games in São Paulo in 1963. Frank Gunnar Gatsky, who played for the Cleveland Browns, a four-time NFL champion. And at Marshall, that's correct. Thank you, sir. I missed that. Rick Harris, who attended Fairmont State from 55 to 58 and participated in baseball, football, and swimming. The list goes on and on. A couple of other notables here, and one that really caught my eye, which was rather interesting, and if I can find it here. We also have Nick Saban. We all know Nick Saban. I don't need to go into it. Our good friend Bill Stewart, coached at Fairmont, attended Fairmont State. Sam Huff, who was born in Edna Gas and raised in Farmington, played linebacker, went on to play for WVU, New York Giants. Numerous championship awards there as well. The one that I was surprised by, and I'm having a hard time finding it here, 1 second. Please bear with me. There are a lot of others. I don't have them all on here. Missing it. I sadly mistaken. But anyways, again, I hope the committee who has this bill, and I don't have it in front of me where it's been appointed to, will take this up for consideration. I believe it's something we need to document, and that's this 21-member commission is available for us to start recording these individuals and bring them into a Hall of Fame here in the state. And I did find the one memo that I wanted to bring to your attention. Fielding H. Yost, born and raised in Fairview, played college football and served as a head coach at 6 different colleges and universities, including 25 years at the University of Michigan, where he won the national championship and, this is what caught my eye, beat Sanford in the very first bowl game, the Rose Bowl in 1902. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you'll please take up the bill for consideration, and thank you for allowing me to speak. Thank you, Mr. President.
The senator from Morgan County seek recognition.
The senator from the Montague County yield.
Senator from yield. Senator does yield.
Absolutely.
To my good friend from Morgantown, now you mentioned Nick Saban, but I've seen photographic evidence, and I want to ask if the gentleman from Morgantown has seen this. And the truth that I've heard is that Nick Saban's claim to fame, his initial claim to fame, and probably what launched him on his path toward national success, is that he had a running back playing on that team that was so powerful at Monongah that none of the teams in Marion County could stop him. Have you ever heard that story?
I have, sir, and if I was to sit on the commission, I'd probably try to get that gentleman in the Hall of Fame as well.
Now, would that person, the person to whom we refer, be a member of this body right now?
He would, sir.
About to be a grandfather right now?
That is true, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Further discussion. The senior senator from the 5th.
Thank you, Mr. President. One thing that I would like to mention is we did have a West Virginian over the weekend get in the Hall of Fame, the NFL Hall of Fame, and I think it's quite remarkable. And if you've heard his commentaries on TV now as an NFL commentator, he does a phenomenal job. But I think that I would ask this body to do a resolution congratulating him and let all members sign it, because I think that that would be worthy. We don't have very many people from West Virginia that get in on the first ballot, let alone in on any ballot. But I think that he deserves that from the West Virginia Senate.
Further remarks? Further remarks? The senior senator from the 8th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I see several of us here today have these red boutonnieres on. Today is set aside in these chambers to honor life, the most basic essence which was breathed into each of us by God. We are, each one of us, created in His image as a special representation of Him. We have individual DNA. No two of us are the same. And we've done this today. We acknowledge that this is Honoring Life Day here, but we haven't passed a special resolution or honored any specific group or any individuals. Mr. President, we as human beings have been guilty of many sins since the beginning of time. Human beings are sinful by our very nature, it seems. We've harmed our fellow man in innumerable, egregious ways. National origin, race, ethnicity, gender, and religion are but a few reasons we've used for our meanness. As Daniel did for the nation of Israel, we should all repent for those corporate national sins, I believe. And because today is set aside as a day to celebrate life, I'd like to spend just a couple more minutes discussing the subject of abortion, even though it causes some of us to be uncomfortable and probably should. It's not politically correct and maybe not even politically expedient, but we need to have the discussion. First thing I'd like to do is acknowledge the Roman Catholic Church and other evangelicals who have never wavered in their advocacy for life from conception to natural death. They have been the voices crying out from the wilderness. In the name of choice, we have legitimized the deaths of more than 60 million lives, 60 million individuals, 60 million. I can't help but wonder if one of those was meant by God to be the next Ronald Reagan, or Abraham Lincoln, or Franklin Roosevelt, or Jonas Salk, or Homer Hickam, or Neil Armstrong, or Martin Luther King Jr., or Katherine Johnson, or Billy Graham, or Pope Francis, or Randy Moss, or Tom Brady, or Aretha Franklin, or Bach, or Beethoven, or perhaps even somebody who would be sitting at one of these desks. It grieves me, Mr. President, that our society, our culture, and my generation will be the one remembered for this dubious distinction. It reminds me of Proverbs 14:12, which says, "There is a way that seems right to a man, the path of which leads to destruction." Mr. President, it's my desire today that every opportunity we get, that we choose life. Thank you.
Further remarks. The senator from Harrison County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I hesitate to stand, but I feel obligated to remind everybody, as a Catholic, I abhor abortion and what it's about. And at the same time, I have to remind all my friends here that there's millions of children that are born into poverty, that don't have enough to eat, don't have a roof over their head, don't get a good education, have no chance to become something in life. We need to be just as worried about those children too, and make sure what we do here enables their parents to take care of them, and when their parents can't take care of them, we need to stand up for those that are less than us. And they go together. They really do. I certainly respect other people's religious beliefs or lack thereof, as our Constitution requires, but I certainly don't respect our inability to care for those who need our help the most. And I just felt that was appropriate to say, Senator, in response or coupled with your comments. And thank you.
Senator from Cabell County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that the remarks of the senator from Harrison and the elegant remarks of the senior senator from the 8th be printed into the appendix of the journal.
Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. The senator from Upshur County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Obviously, I have pretty strong feelings on behalf of or in the cause of life, but sometimes there's consequences that we don't even think about. And I remember a few days ago, the senator from Brooke County had a piece of paper laying on all of our desks talking about how many people we lose each day in West Virginia to out-migration. And one of the things we talked about a lot last year was the fact that we're probably going to lose a congressman in the next census. If we had 70,000 more people roughly, we wouldn't lose that congressman. And if you go back and just do a rough count of how many children we've lost right here in West Virginia, it's probably about 70,000. We're losing a congressman in 2 years because of what we've done to our unborn children in this state. So there's consequences that go beyond the horrific act of abortion. There's consequences for the state of West Virginia that's going to mean something in just a couple of years, and that's something that we should keep in mind as well.
Further remarks? Further remarks? Miscellaneous business. The senior senator from the 5th or 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask the remarks be added to the appendix of the journal from the senator from Upshur.
Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Miscellaneous business. Senator from Ohio County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Request unanimous consent that leave of absence for the day be granted to the senator from Wetzel.
Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. The senator from Ohio County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Subject to announcements, move the Senate stand adjourned until tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Are there announcements? The senior senator from the 15th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Senate Finance Committee will meet today at 3 p.m., and the agenda has been posted.
Senator from Monroe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Education Committee will meet tomorrow at 2 p.m. in Senate Finance. For this afternoon, we have rescheduled Lucia for those members on the committee. We'll be in Senate Finance today at 5 p.m., and the agenda is posted for Lucia.
Senator from Morgan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on the Judiciary will meet today at 3 p.m. in 208 West Wing.
The senator from Jefferson County.
The subcommittee for Senate Bill 83 is meeting today at 208 West at 2:30, and the subcommittee for Senate Bill 375 will be meeting again tomorrow at 9 a.m. in 451 M.
The junior senator from the 4th.
Mr. President, your subcommittee on Senate Bill 52, consisting of the senator from Wyoming and the senator from Wayne, will meet tomorrow at 9 a.m. in 217 West.
The senator from Nicholas County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure will be meeting tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., room 451M. The agenda has been posted, but as a matter of notation for that, Senate Bill 402 that was posted on the agenda will be removed, and we'll take that up at a later time. Thank you.
The senior senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Natural Resources will be meeting today in 208 West at 1 p.m. The agenda is posted.
Senator from Wood County.
Thank you, Mr. President. A reminder that your Committee on Banking and Insurance will meet today at 2 o'clock, 451 M. Thank you.
Further announcements. The senator from Boone County.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Southern West Virginia folks will be having their annual reception at the Governor's Mansion this evening from 4 to 7. You all are welcome to attend.
Further announcements. Further announcements. If not, the question before the Senate is, shall the Senate stand adjourned until tomorrow at 11 a.m.? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the Senate adjourned until tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Clerk, please read a citation.
Whereas the 2017 Wyoming East High School golf team achieved a record of 98, 17, and 1 en route to the West Virginia State AA Championship. And whereas head coach Robert Doc Warner guided the Warriors to achieve success throughout the season. And whereas team members are Patrick Smith, Michael Groh, Evan Priest, Noah Quisenberry, Gavin Roberts, Ethan Bradford, Matthew Caldwell, Jacob Penner, Connor Hall, Logan Miller, and Josh Seaton. Therefore, the House of Delegates of the West Virginia Legislature hereby recognizes and congratulates the Wyoming East High School 2017 State AA Golf Champions and hereby directs this citation be presented.
Members and guests will please be at ease a moment while I greet our guests and present the citation. Introduction of guests. The lady from the 32nd, Delegate Kessinger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm joined today by two very special guests from Raleigh County, Hilda Shorter and Bonnie Ayers. They are joined by tons of men and women from across the state who defend the sanctity of life every single day. So if all of them would stand and the House would make them welcome.
Lady from the 38th, Delegate Graves.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm joined today by Linda Williams. She's a teacher at Stonewall Jackson. She wanted to learn more about how we do things, and she's shadowing me today. Please make her feel welcome.
Lady from the 18th, Delegate Sabonia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have two special introductions today. If she'll stand to be recognized, I have Kayla Wilson. She is my Fraser Singleton intern for the week. She's from Charleston. She goes to Marshall University. She's a senior and a political science major. So if you could welcome her. Thank you. And additionally, on behalf of the Cabell County delegates, we have visiting us today for Library Day our librarian, Judy Rule, Amanda Ross, and my cousin, Brianna Bowen, if they would stand to be recognized. Thank you.
John for the 14th, Doug Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the 14th District from Point Pleasant High School in the PAGE program, I have Nicholas Smith with us, and he's accompanied by his mom, Jennifer. Would the House please welcome them?
John for 21st, Doug Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of myself, the gentleman from the 25th, and the gentleman from the 31st, we have 4 pages here with us from Westside High School: Molly Cook, Julie Brown, Jade Cox, and Caitlin Elkins. And they're escorted here today, or chaperoned today, by Mr. Anthony Dunn. Anthony, if you're in the gallery, if you would please stand, and friends, make them feel welcome.
Lady from 57th, Delia Rowan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of all 3 of the delegates representing Mineral County, I would like to welcome some pretty fantastic librarians. Connie Sutton, who represents the Kaiser Mineral County Library. She's their director. And Jenny Klein, the librarian at Potomac State College of West Virginia University. Would the House please make them feel welcome?
John from 32nd, Delia Fast.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the North Gallery, I have some very special guests this morning. My mother and father, Betty and Lonnie Fast, and they produced 2 fine children, myself included, and my sister Wendy. And I have another announcement, but would the House please make them feel very welcome? Thank you. And I also have with me today Gavin Nichols. He is a political science major at West Virginia State. He's a junior studying political science, aspires to go on to law school, which is a rather noble profession. And he's my Fraser Singleton intern today. Would the House please make him feel welcome?
John from 6th, Doug Romine.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pleased to have with me today some hardworking librarians from Doddridge County, Kathy Aish, Victoria Gaines, and her husband, Chad. Any support we can give them, they would appreciate. Thank you.
John for the 45th, Doug Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today from West Virginia Wesleyan, we have Luke Blake. He's a Fraser Singleton intern this week. He's a senior majoring in economics, and he'd like to attend law school someday. I'm trying to talk him into going in the insurance business. I'm going to work on him this week. Thank you. Please make him welcome.
John for the 1st, Doug McGeehan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today we have with us on the House floor a former member of this body and a founding member of the Liberty Caucus, Mr. Larry Fairclough. The House, please make him welcome.
Lady from 3rd, Douglas Storch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This morning, I'm glad to have with me the little girl that Katie Armstead babysat our first session 7 years ago. My daughter, Peyton Storch. She's come down to join us for the day. I'd ask the House please make her welcome.
John from the 7th, Doug Harshbarger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I'm joined, and actually this week, will be shadowing me is Haley Biller.
She's from Glenville State College, a senior majoring in behavioral science, and is a native to Lewis County. So she'll be with me all week, and will the House give her a big warm welcome. Thank you.
John for 28, Doggett Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have two introductions. The first one is the two gentlemen in the West Gallery, Sergeant Lester and Officer Zach Mills with the Department of Natural Resources Police. Before you start clapping, if I could have ordered a son out of a catalog, I would have ordered Zach Mills. Please make them feel welcome. And also, Mr. Speaker, I don't see him right now, but we have Austin Persinger with the Summers County Library. I believe he may be in the South Gallery if he'll stand up, and please make him welcome. Thank you.
John from 67th, Doggett Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also have a Fraser Singleton intern here with me, Abbas Mahar from Jefferson County, who is from WVU, political science major, and he is also an aspiring attorney. So, House, make him feel welcome.
John from 60th, Doug Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to introduce Miss who is a junior WVU in poli-sci. She's also a Fraser Singleton intern, and seems to be a really bright lady. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
John for the 51st, Doggett Statler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I have the privilege of introducing my grandson that's paging for us today. Ryan Thomas, would you please stand? He's accompanied by his parents in the north, Michelle and Ryan Thomas. Please give him a hand. Also, Mr. Speaker, I'm joined today by the intern, Kayla Asbury. She's a public relations major and also wants to go on to law school. Don't know why they chose to send her with me. That may be a downturn for her, but she keeps me out of trouble. She'll do great. Please make her welcome.
John from the 8th, Doggett Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to introduce my Fraser Single intern for the week, Madison White. She is attends WVU and is an economics major. As far as I know, she is not planning on going to law school, but who knows? And Mr. Speaker, I would also note many more people want to go to WVU's law school. They're going to request a greater appropriation to expand the school. Thank you.
John from the 10th, Doggett Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I'm honored to have a young lady here with me as a page. It's my granddaughter, Brianna Alexis, and I think she's probably back in the back somewhere. But I'm proud to have her here. She's a student at Jackson Middle School in Vienna, and she's a 4.0 student, and I'm very, very proud of her. And she's chaperoning today her dad and my oldest child, John Jr., and John Jr. is with John III in the South Gallery, and my daughter Betsy Jane and Bella Grace are also accompanying. Please put your hands together and make my family welcome.
Life and 51st, Doug Fritsch.
Well, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the delegates from the 51st District, I would like to introduce the Covenant Evangelical Methodist Church busload from Montague County. I understand a few other passengers on board are from other counties where stops were made along I-79. Others on board that bus are enjoying a field day from Covenant Christian School in Morgantown. These fine folks are here today for the Pro-Life Rally Day. If they're still in the gallery, I ask that they stand so that we can give them a warm welcome.
John for the 50th Delegate Ward.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today with me, I have an intern from the Fraser Singleton Student Legislature Program. Her name is Brittany Mullins. She's from Fairmont State College or University, which is in my district. She's in political science, plans to be an attorney, and maybe someday be a legislator. But maybe we could talk her out of it by then, by the end of the week. So, but please make her feel welcome.
John from 36, Delegate White.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my honor and pleasure today to introduce this Fraser Singleton intern. Her name is Emily Stern. She's from Charleston, West Virginia. She goes to WVU. She's a junior there, and she's majoring in strategic communications. If you guys would join with me and give her a hand, certainly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
John for the 9th, Delegate Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Paging for us today, I get the honor to introduce my nephew, Alex Morgan, and he is from student in Mineral Wells Elementary, and he's escorted by his mother that's sitting next to my wife. Her name is Christy Morgan. Please make her welcome.
John for 24th, Delegate Phillips.
Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of myself and Delegate Roddy Garrio from the 24th District, we have some students paging. If they would stand as I say their names. Anna Bailey, LJ McDaniel, Kylie Blevins, Maylee Meadows, and Bethany Stacy. If the House will make them welcome. Thank you.
John from 36, Delegate Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very honored and pleased to have with me today Jordan Barnhart, who will be my Fraser Singleton intern. She's from my neighborhood. She lives in Rand. She's a graduate of Riverside High School. She is graduating from West Virginia State University in political science, and she's on her way to law school. So I'd ask the members to make her welcome.
John from the 43rd, Delegate Asner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am proud to be joined today by my Fraser Singleton intern for the week, Miss Maddie LaJoy. Maddie is a history major. She's a sophomore at West Virginia Wesleyan, right up in my neck of the woods. She's from Berkeley County, and fortunately, she has expressed no interest in attending law school at this time.
Do we have any more Senate messages? Lady for the 51st, Delegate Fleischauer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm also honored to have a Fraser Singleton today. Her name is Shania Jasper. She is a junior at WVU. She also has aspirations to attend law school. She is a women and gender studies major, and right now what she's particularly interested in is women's reproductive health, especially access for low-income women and low-income students. Would everyone please make Shania welcome?
John from 34th, Delegate Boggs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have two announcements, or two introductions, rather, this morning. In the gallery, I'm very happy to welcome today the director of the Burnsville Public Library, Beth Anderson. She does a wonderful job. Beth, would you stand? And members, please make Beth welcome. And also, Mr. Speaker, and to the members, my Fraser Singleton student this week is somebody that's very happy to have here. He is a Glenville State College student. He's a Braxton County High School graduate. Lives right on the line in between Braxton and Gilmer County at Gilmer Station. But it's Joshua Rexrow. Joshua, if you would stand. And he's known by Logan at home, so he'll answer by Joshua, Josh, or Logan, either one. And he's got one of the best beards down here of all of the Fraser Singletons this week. He's a marketing major. Please make Josh welcome.
Gentleman from the 26th, Delegate Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very pleased today to introduce my Fraser Singleton intern for the week. This is Zachary Adkins. Zachary is a political science major and majors in pre-law at Concord University. He is from Fayetteville, but has recently moved to Beckley. He plans on attending law school after graduating and aspires to work in politics after law school. It's amazing how they pair people up. Turns out this young man is a very dear friend of my daughter, and had the privilege of hosting him for my daughter's wedding, so I'm very happy to say that. And I do want to pass this along. He's also the president of the Young Democrats of Concord College. Thank you very much.
John for the 50th, Delegate Caputo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have two introductions today. First, on behalf of Delegates Longstreth, Ward, and myself, in the South Gallery, we have Erica Reed from the Marion County Public Library. Erica, please stand and let the House make you welcome. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to introduce my intern for the week, Gatsby Ryder. Gatsby's a Fairmont resident and a sophomore at Fairmont State University, majoring in political science and national security. Please make Gatsby feel welcome.
John for the 4th, Delegate Farrow.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Delegate Canestraro and I are from the 4th District, although the delegate is home ill, and we wish him the best. I would like to welcome several people here today, so if they would please stand as I call their names and let the House make them welcome after I finish. Lauren Reed from Ohio Valley University in Parkersburg. For Library Day from the Moundsville Marshall County Library, our director Susan Riley and Catherine Ferriok. And two of my good friends, two former Marshall County unionized school teachers, Mark Swiger and Bob Treveri. Would they all stand and let the House make them welcome?
John for the 44th, Delegate Lynch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the most beautiful county in the state, Webster County, I have two very good friends here. They're here representing West Virginians for Life, and that's Betty and Alfred Clay. And I want you to know that Alfred was my senior high school English teacher. Would the House please make them welcome?
Further introductions, gentleman from the 58th.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to announce that sponsored by the West Virginia Academy of Family Physicians and celebrating the 29th anniversary of the Doctor of the Day program, today our family doctor is Dr. Joanna Bailey of Pineville, West Virginia. If the House will make the doctor welcome.
Further introductions. Reports of standing committees.
Your Committee on Government Organization has had under consideration House Bill 4350, eliminating the regulation of upholstery, reports back to committee substitute, therefore, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass.
Report be received.
Your Committee on Government Organization has had under consideration House Bill 4154, establishing the 2018 Regulatory Reform Act, and House Bill 4317, West Virginia Contractor Licensing Act, reports the same back with amendments with the recommendation that each do pass as amended and that they be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
The report be received and the bills be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Your Committee on Banking and Insurance has had under consideration House Bill 4285 relating to the West Virginia Safe Mortgage Licensing Act, reports the same back with its title amended with the recommendation that it do pass and that it be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Report be received and the bill be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Your Committee on Banking and Insurance has had under consideration House Bill 4343 relating to the delivery of financial statements to bank shareholders, reports the same back with amendment with the recommendation that it do pass as amended, that it be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Report be received and the bill be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration House Bill 4332 relating to home peritoneal renal dialysis. Reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass and that the second reference to the Committee on Judiciary be dispensed with.
Report be received. Gentleman from the 58th.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent the second reference to the Committee on the Judiciary be dispensed with.
Gentleman 58 asks unanimous consent that the second reference to the Committee on the Judiciary be dispensed with. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Second reference is dispensed with. Reports to select committees. Messages from the Executive. Messages from the Senate.
The Clerk of the Senate announces the passage by the Senate of Committee Substitute for Senate Bill 10 relating generally to PSC jurisdiction.
Message will be received and the bill be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
The Senate has passed Senate Bill 258, exempting honorably discharged veterans from fees for license to carry deadly weapons.
Message will be received and the bill be referred to the Committee on Veterans Affairs and Homeland Security and then to the Judiciary.
The Senate has passed Committee Substitute for Senate Bill 267, increasing salaries of certain state employees.
Message will be received and the bill be referred to the Committee on Finance.
The Senate has passed Committee Substitute for Senate Bill 268, eliminating a requirement that certain agencies purchase commodities produced on institutional farms.
Message will be received and the bill be referred to the Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources, then the Government Organization.
The Senate has passed Senate Bill 324, removing restrictions where certain traditional lottery games may be played.
Message will be received and the bill be referred to the Committee on Judiciary and then to Finance.
The Senate has passed Senate Bill 345, authorizing DNR established procedures and fee schedule for limited permit hunts.
Message will be received and the bill be referred to the Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources and then to Judiciary.
The Senate has passed Senate Bill 350, eliminating obsolete requirement that Lottery Commission file racetrack video lottery game rules with Secretary of State.
Message will be received. The bill be referred to the Committee on Government Organization and then Judiciary.
The Senate has passed Senate Bill 357, relating generally to limited video lottery.
Message will be received. The bill be referred to the Committee on Judiciary and then to Finance.
The Senate has passed Senate Bill 384, decreasing and increasing appropriations from state fund general revenue to DHHR.
Message will be received. The bill be referred to the Committee on Finance.
The Senate has passed Committee Substitute for Senate Bill 386, decreasing and increasing appropriations from Treasury to Higher Education Policy Commission.
Message will be received. The bill be referred to the Committee on Finance.
The Senate has adopted Committee Substitute for Senate Concurrent Resolution 3, Michael Angelilli Memorial Bridge.
Message will be received. The resolution will be referred to the Committee on Roads, Transportation, then the rules. Resolutions.
House Resolution 4, relating to the House Committee on the Judiciary to investigate allegations of impeachable offenses.
Gentleman from the 58th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that further reading of resolutions introduced be dispensed with, and each resolution be considered formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committee as listed on the Chamber Automation System.
Gentleman 58th asks unanimous consent that further reading of resolutions introduced be dispensed with. Each resolution be considered formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as indicated on the Chamber Automation System. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Each resolution will be considered formally introduced and so referred. Petitions, motions, bills introduced.
House Bill 4418, relating to the Consumer Credit and Protection Act.
Gentleman from the 58th.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that further reading of bills introduced be dispensed with, and each bill be considered formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committee as listed on the Chamber Automation System.
Gentleman from 58th asks unanimous consent that further reading of bills introduced be dispensed with. Each bill be considered formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as indicated on the Chamber Automation System. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Each bill be considered formally introduced and so referred. Unfinished business. Bills on third reading.
Committee Substitute for House Bill 2655, defining and establishing the crime of cyberbullying.
Question for the House is the passage of the bill. The gentleman from the 27th, Delegate Schott, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning. The purpose of this bill is to create a criminal offense for cyberbullying a minor. The ComSub before you makes it a criminal act to use a computer or a computer network to harass, intimidate, or bully a minor, and that's M-I-N-O-R. Harass, intimidate, or bully means any intentional gesture or any intentional electronic, written, verbal, or physical act, communication, transmission, or threat that a reasonable person under the circumstance should know will have the effect of any one or more of the following: physically harming the minor, damaging a minor's property, placing a minor in reasonable fear of harm to his or her person, or placing a minor in reasonable fear of damage to his or her property. The section does not apply to a peaceful activity which is intended to either express a political view or provide information to others with no intent to harass, intimidate, or bully. A person who violates this section is guilty of a misdemeanor and upon conviction may be confined in jail for a period up to a year, fined not to exceed $500, or both confined and fined. That's the bill, Mr. Speaker. I urge passage.
Are there other members desiring to speak to the passage of the bill? Lady from the 65th, Delegate Upson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Permission to speak to the bill?
Lady may proceed.
This bill is about child safety. Grace McComas was a beautiful and vibrant 15-year-old high school sophomore. For nearly an entire year, she was the target of hate speech, threats, and online bullying. Although Grace herself did not have a Twitter account, the popular social media platform was used to torment and humiliate her amongst her peers. On Easter Sunday, 2012, Grace committed suicide. Grace's mother, Christine Feister McComas, forwarded the following letter to me. Dear West Virginia legislators, 5.5 years ago, our world stopped turning. The lives of our family and friends changed forever, and the world became more dim with the loss of our beloved daughter, Grace McComas. She died on Easter Sunday, attempting to flee the pain inflicted upon her by multiple people and entities. Grace was a wonderful human being. She was well-loved, she was active, she was well-adjusted, funny, exuberantly happy, tender-hearted, kind-hearted. Too tender-hearted, in fact, in a world which can be cruel. Grace's bullying began in the summer of 2011 after she had been subpoenaed as a witness against a young man in an unrelated court case. His personal attacks included not only what he told others, but also included Facebook and Twitter blasts. These were not like, your hair looks funny today. These were malicious and dehumanizing. I hate, 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 hate you. Next time my name rolls off your tongue, choke on it and die. You are proof God has a sense of humor. All day I thought of you. I was at the zoo. I have come across decomposed bodies that are less offensive than you are. I hope somehow you see this and cry yourself to sleep. Then kill yourself. Might as well. You are just a worthless piece of insert expletive. No one blinking likes you. It's just sad. And I kind of feel bad for you. Snitches need to have their fingers cut off one by one as they watch their families burn. Mrs. McComas goes on to say, it is gossip and hatred at the speed of electronic media, as close as their cell phone, computer screen, iPad, or game system. As a chaperone on overnight choir trips for several years, I have literally seen kids sleep with their phone in their hand so as not to miss a single message. I never dreamed I would become a middle-aged mother pleading for the passage of a law that would protect children from the type of harm which stole our beloved and cherished daughter from us. Thank you for hearing me today in honor of our beloved Grace Catherine McComas. Mr. Speaker, while advanced technology enriches our lives in many ways, it also allows misinformation to spread rapidly. This high-tech world has made the bullies of old pale in comparison to the power to defame and destroy that today's bullies possess. According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, suicide rates for girls have doubled in the last decade, and cyberbullying is largely attributed. Victims of cyberbullying are more likely to use drugs and alcohol, to skip school, to get bad grades, and to have low self-esteem. Quote, "This is why the West Virginia PTA supports this bill. Until this legislation is passed, we are not doing our due diligence to make sure that our children are protected and given their rights of a quality education." Janelle Sperry, College and Career Readiness Lead, West Virginia PTA. Mr. Speaker, I am heartened to see West Virginia taking the lead on this critical issue of our time. I would like to thank the West Virginia PTA for bringing this issue to the forefront, and I would like to thank them for their leadership. And a very special thank you goes out to Christine McComas, whose beautiful angel continues to be a bright and steady light in a sometimes dark world. Mr. Speaker, I urge passage.
The gentleman from the 60th delegate, Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the chairman please yield?
Gentleman yields.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are these activities not already illegal according to West Virginia code?
There is an offense of telephone harassment.
Yes, sir.
There is an offense of assault, but to be specific, there is nothing that covers electronic communications with the intent to harass.
So if someone were to take part in these activities, does the medium of the communication, is that a critical component? I mean, is that?
It is an element of the crime, yes.
Yes, sir, it's an element of the crime.
Yes.
So as the code currently stands, without this new addition to the code, is it not illegal to take part in all these activities? In person, via the mail?
Counsel informs me that there is a form of computer harassment, but it requires a repetition of the same act over and over again.
I'm asking specifically about without the computer. If this is done in person, or some of the code here, some of the bill here speaks about posting photos, that sort of thing. If you were to put them up on a public wall, is that not already covered under code?
Well, it'd probably be subject to some civil lawsuits in terms of whether it's libelous or slanderous, depending on the mode that it's communicated.
But it's not criminal?
I'm not aware. I mean, if it's obscene, obviously you have issues with that.
Yes, sir. If
it's just words, unless it constitutes an assault and creates a reasonable apprehension of harm,
yes,
it probably wouldn't be covered, no.
So if these type words or these sorts of actions were publicly posted on a wall or on a telephone pole, that's not currently illegal in this state?
Not unless it falls within one of those categories.
Okay. If I understand, and perhaps I'm asking the question improperly, I'm not communicating as well as I would like. What I'd like to ask is, if someone were to take part in each of these activities, but to do it publicly, physically, literally, rather than via electronic means, are those actions not currently illegal?
Not current. Are you talking about criminal or?
Yes, sir. Criminal.
I'm not aware of any crimes that conduct would fall within.
Thank you, sir. That helps me clarify my thoughts on this. Permission to speak to the bill, sir?
Gentleman may proceed.
As a father, and I know that you guys get tired of hearing about my kids because I like them a whole bunch, but here are my thoughts on this if you're interested. One is that when my kids are with me, I protect them. When they're not with me, they're with their coach, they're with their teachers, or they're at church. And there's always an adult who cares about them, protecting them. I do my best to protect them online, but there are people who have access to them online that I cannot control. I support the bill, and I'd like to ask everyone else to as well. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman from the 10th delegate, Kelly. Chairman,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, could you maybe give a brief presentation on what the penalty phase of this bill would be?
Yes, it would be a misdemeanor. It would be subject to either a fine or imprisonment. The fine could be as much as $500. The imprisonment could go up to but not exceed 1 year.
And would that be both a juvenile or an adult?
No,
charge?
The violation of a criminal statute by a juvenile would trigger the juvenile process, which usually is an adjudication of delinquency, unless the prosecutor thought it was severe enough to seek to have the juvenile treated as an adult, and that would require a petition to the circuit court.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
John for 63rd, Doug Folk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman yield?
Gentleman continue to yield. Gentleman yields.
I think I might just, is law enforcement exempt from this bill?
Pardon me?
Is law enforcement exempt from this bill anywhere in here?
There are no exemptions in this bill. The bill does not contain any exemptions.
Okay, thank you.
Further members desiring to speak to the passage of the bill. Those gentlemen from 27th wish to close. Question for the House is the passage of the bill. Those in favor of passage will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, 94 ayes, 1 nay, 4 members absent not voting. Majority of members present having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk, please report the title.
Committee Subsuper House Bill 2655.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title is read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. Clerk, please communicate the acts of the House to the Senate and request concurrence therein. Further bills on third reading.
Committee Subsuper House Bill 2662, prohibiting the waste of game animals, game birds, or game fish.
Question for the House is the passage of the bill. The gentleman from 27th, Doug Schott, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We discussed this bill yesterday during the amendment stage. It makes it unlawful to waste game animals or game birds or game fish that have been wounded, killed, or taken while hunting or fishing. However, the proposed bill includes language accepting out fur-bearing animals such as minks and beavers. Waste is specifically defined in the bill, but generally means 1, removing only specified parts from the carcass of a game animal, or 2, removing only specified parts from the carcass of a game bird, intentionally disposing of portions of game fish suitable for food in fields, woods, or streams, or leaving a wounded game animal or game bird in fields or woods without making a reasonable effort to retrieve and process the carcass for human consumption or use. Finally, waste also includes transporting, storing, or hanging the carcass of game animals or game birds or game fish in a manner that renders them unfit for human consumption. The proposed bill provides that violations are misdemeanors, and conviction with respect to big game as defined in the chapter results in a fine of not less than $500, no more than $2,500, or jail confinement of not less than 10 days, no more than 100 days, or both fine or imprisonment. Additionally, the person shall be subject to the applicable forfeiture provisions which are set forth in the bill, and the person's fishing and hunting licenses shall be suspended for 5 years. Convictions with respect to other game animals, game birds, or game fish results in a fine of not less than $100, no more than $1,000, or jail confinement of not less than 10 days, no more than 100 days, or both fined and confined. That's the bill, Mr. Speaker. I urge passage.
Are there other members desiring to speak to the passage of the bill? The gentleman from the 42nd, Doug Ambler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill is designed to send a clear message to those persons who are not following the game laws. This bill is designed as a piece of a mechanism in Chapter 20 to help our DNR officers become more effective in policing our natural resources. This bill does 2 other things, though, that I think are even more important than that. One, it sends a message to all the sportsmen of the state of West Virginia, to the hunters and the fishermen, those who are ethical, that we care about what is going on in this natural resource that we call here in West Virginia that draws so many people here. But maybe secondly, it will send a resounding sonic boom to those persons who are taking illegal gain, that we are not going to put up with this, that they do not have the right to go out and do as they please and violate our game laws. I wholeheartedly ask you to send a message that we are not going to tolerate it anymore. Please vote yes and send that message loud and very, very clear. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
John for the 50th, Doug Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the chairman yield?
Gentleman yield. Gentleman yields.
All right, thank you. I've got some constituents that are concerned about this bill. I'm not a hunter myself, but I know a lot of hunters go out in the field. When they shoot a deer, they have a term they call gutting, and they gut the deer, and they leave the intestines and internals back or in the field. Will they be in violation of this law if they do that?
Yeah, it would only apply if they left parts suitable for consumption, okay? So I don't know anybody that eats those parts.
What about the liver? Some people eat the liver, but they leave that behind.
I'm not a hunter either, so let me confer with someone who may know the answer to that. So there's some, I call them weasel words in the statute dealing with reasonable efforts to use or consume. So part of that would depend on whether or not there's some effort to provide for the use or consumption of those parts. So I think that's going to be sort of the escape on that issue of the liver. But I don't know whether those are typically used and consumed. So I can't really give you a 100% crystal clear answer on that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
John for the 14th, Doug Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the kind of bill that I would probably sign on to just based on the title. It makes sense to me. Somebody says, hey, we want to make sure people don't waste game animals. I'm a hunter, have been my whole life. My kids are. And I probably would have said yes, but there's a problem with this bill that I have read, and the delegate from the 50th just brought that up. It's on, of the bill, line 9, section 3. It says to intentionally dispose of or abandon any portion of the game suitable for food in the fields or woods or about the streams of the state. So for those of you who are not hunters, I'll just, if you're deer hunting, and as the delegate said here, you field dress the animal. You remove the intestines, you remove the heart, the lungs, other parts that actually could be eaten. I eat the heart sometimes. I've eaten the liver. Don't always do that. But I'd say probably 90% of the hunters that I know do not. They leave that stuff in the field. So are those parts suitable for consumption? Absolutely they are. Under this legislation, it makes that a misdemeanor. So then I'm thinking, okay, so our game wardens, is somebody even going to enforce this provision of the law if you leave the liver or the heart or whatever? They're probably not going to. But should we be passing laws that are not going to be enforced that are meaningless? On Friday, the delegate from the 32nd offered an amendment for this, which I thought would have improved the bill. In that case, I would have voted for this. But under the circumstances, I'm not going to, and I won't encourage you to do one thing or the other. I just like for you to be aware of the fact that you're going to put people who are lawfully hunting otherwise and really doing the right thing most of the time, and you're going to put them in a position where they can be charged for doing so. Thank you.
The gentleman for 32nd, Doug Fast.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You heard the amendment yesterday, and I'm not going to get up and badger this bill, but I would like to point out some very specific things about this bill. And again, when courts look at legislation, they start with the premises that the legislature means what it says and says what it means. And so you have to look at these things not in what the intention is, okay? Unless the intent is specifically and clearly spelled out in the written language. And so in this bill, it applies to game animals, game birds, and game fish. Well, what are those? If you would go to the prior section, 20-1-2, the definition section, we have definitions of what are game animals, game birds, or game fish. A game animal includes elk, no problem, deer, no problem, fox squirrels, but also includes a cottontail rabbit, which they seem to plagiarize my garden more and more all the time. What is a game bird that applies here, that's being protected here? A game bird includes, there's a whole list, including wild turkey, grouse, pheasants, quail, partridges, not on a pear tree, but partridges. But it also includes, under game birds, Corvidae, commonly known as crows. So, if we take the express written language of this code, a person may not waste a game bird. For the purposes of this section, waste means intentionally dispose of or abandon any portion of game, which would include a crow, suitable for food in the fields or woods or about the streams of the state. A person may not transport, store, or hang the carcass of game in a manner that renders it unfit for human consumption. The express written language in this bill. You know, my grandparents and people to this day, if they have problems with crows pecking their corn and eating their gardens, what do? They kill a few of them and they hang them up in the garden. Okay? Now, the intent is to keep people from just driving by and mowing down a herd of deer, and that's really the intent of this bill. But under the express language, if you kill a couple of crows and hang them in your garden to try to prevent them from eating the rest of your garden, then you are committing a misdemeanor. At that point, your only recourse is to hope you don't get caught. And so that is what's going on here. I think this is a very well-intended bill, but I would caution the members of this body to realize this is very, very broad. And I believe that there are significant unintended consequences that could take place here. And so I would just ask the members of this body, when you vote red or green on this bill, that you think about what this is. We are passing laws that people must abide by, or in this case, they could be subject to fines of $500 to $1,000 per incident, or they could, if a magistrate really wanted to get sticky on this matter, they could throw the person in jail. It's expressly stated. Again, this is not what maybe I intend or what someone else's intend, but when it comes down to it, it's what's written on the page. And so, ladies and gentlemen, as my friend from the 56 tells me, if you vote for this matter, you very well may have to eat crow. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
John, for 30 seconds, Love.
Mr. Speaker, can I address the bill?
Gentleman may proceed.
Over the weekend, I was getting some gasoline at the service station in East Oak Hill, and an old buddy of mine that he hunts all the time. He hunts and he fishes, and he's got stories to tell. And he approached me. He said, "Love, you're going to vote for that Crow bill when it comes up?" I said, "I didn't know it was called a Crow bill, but that's a pretty good description, I guess." I said, "Haven't made up my mind, Charlie, to be honest with you." Well, he said, "You know, a crow is a pretty good predator." He said, "A crow and a buzzard and a state road worker," he said, they clean these old animals up pretty good along the side of the road. And I've seen crows, and you've seen crows eating dead animals along the road. And I said, "Well, Charlie, you got something there. That's but I don't know that's good enough for me to vote for that bill or not, because it's got some ramifications about it that I don't like," as the delegate Fast pointed out just a few moments ago. I said, "You ever eat a crow?" He says, "No," but he said, "I've seen the time if I had one, I'd have probably eat it. I've been that hungry." And he said, "You know why you don't see many crows along the road dead?" He said, you see all kinds of animals, but you very seldom see a crow." And I said, "No, and this is one of his tales. I'll tell you that first." He said, "What those crows do, they post a crow up on a telephone pole, and when an automobile comes along and passes, that crow hollers, 'Car, car.'" He said, "That's the reason there's no crows killed on the side of the road." I thought that was pretty good, so I thought I'd just pass it along to you this morning, maybe make you smile. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
John for the first, Doug McGee.
Yeah, well, for the gentleman from Fayette County, please yield.
Gentleman yield. Gentleman yields.
Is it your understanding that a dove would be classified as a game bird under this legislation?
I'm not sure. You have to go to the definitions of 20-1-2, and it has very extensive definitions, but I will tell you that blackbirds are also included in game birds, so they would apply as well. I don't know about that.
I read the bill last night. My iPad has some problems right now. So it is your understanding that most likely a dove would be classified as a game bird under this?
Wild turkeys, grouse, pheasants, quails, partridges. Yes, under game birds, subsection E, it's called, they are called Columbidae, Columbidae, commonly known as doves. Yes, they are included as well as crows and blackbirds.
So if you have an annual dove hunt, let's say, traditional dove hunt every year, and a group of licensed hunters gets together on a private farm and shoots doves. I don't know why this tradition exists in my county, shooting the lovebird, but, and it's not done for consumption, they could all still be guilty then under this language of a misdemeanor.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
The gentleman from 27th wish to close debate. Gentleman from 27th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The DNR requested this bill in response to a major problem they're having with people slaughtering large numbers of deer, could even be bears, and just taking the piece they want to display and leaving the rest there. Now, the bill will be enforced by the DNR itself. It knows, its agents knows exactly what the purpose of the bill is. And if you trust the DNR to go out and enforce the laws consistently with its purpose, we won't have any problem with doves initiating any prosecutions or crows. But my suggestion to you is trust the people that we trust to preserve our wilderness areas and our wildlife, and pass the bill.
Question for the House is the passage of the bill. Those in favor of passage will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Yes, every member voted. So the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, 56 ayes, 39 nays, 4 members absent not voting. Majority of members present having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk, please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2662.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title is read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. Clerk, please communicate the acts of the House to the Senate and request concurrence therein. Further bills on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2696 relating to crossbow hunting.
Question for the House is the passage of the bill. The gentleman from the 33rd, Delegate Hanshaw, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. 2 years ago, this House and this legislature authorized the use of crossbows for hunting in West Virginia. The purpose of the committee substitute that's before us now is to update the rest of our hunting laws, which specify what one can or cannot do with the various stamps and licenses that hunters buy. So the purpose of this bill is to simply incorporate the use of crossbows into those existing licenses and stamps. It does not create any new licenses or stamps, does not create any new fees, does not create any new penalties, does not require anyone to have any new licenses or pay any new fees or new penalties. It's just simply an update of our current hunting law to incorporate the word crossbows into the list of permissible weapons to use for the various stamps and licenses that hunters can already buy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are there other members desiring to speak to the passage of the bill? If not, the question for the House is the passage of the bill. Those in favor of passage will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. Clerk, prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, 96 ayes, 0 nays, 3 members absent not voting, a majority of members present having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk, please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2696.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title is read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. Clerk, please communicate the action of the House to the Senate and request concurrence therein. Further bills.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4162, granting authority to the State Conservation Committee to contract for flood response.
Question for the House is the passage of the bill. The gentleman from the 33rd, Delegate Hanshaw, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a bill that came out of our interim study committee on flooding. What we learned during that study committee was that one of the agencies that's involved in natural disaster response in our state that's often overlooked is the State Conservation Committee. And this agency's role within our state is stream maintenance. So this is the body of state workers who go out and take care of stream channels, who clear streams, who remove debris, who engage in a whole laundry list of activities after a natural disaster event in our state. One of the things that we learned during our study process was that from time to time we run the risk of missing out on certain FEMA and federal government reimbursements because that agency isn't specifically authorized to contract directly with those federal agencies for natural disaster response. The purpose of this bill is to provide that explicit authorization. So if passed by the legislature, this bill would authorize the State Conservation Committee to explicitly enter into those contracts, making us eligible for the additional federal reimbursement. Mr. Speaker, I urge passage of the bill.
Are there other members desiring to speak to the passage of the bill? If not, the question for the House is the passage of the bill. Those in favor of passage will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, 96 ayes, 0 nays, 3 members absent not voting. Majority of members present having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk, please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4162.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title is read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. Clerk, please communicate the acts of the House to the Senate and request concurrence therein. Further bills.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4199.
Gentleman from the 58th.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to postpone action one day.
The gentleman from the 58th, ask unanimous consent that action be postponed one day on the bill. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Action be postponed one day. Further bills.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4251, permitting employees of baccalaureate institutions and universities outside of this state to be appointed to Board of Governors.
Question for the House is the passage of the bill. Gentleman from the 66th, Delegate Espinosa, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Current law lists persons who are ineligible to serve on a higher education institution's Board of Governors. Within the ineligible list are employees and board members of any higher education institution. This committee's substitute would add language clarifying that employees and board members of out-of-state higher education institutions may be appointed to an in-state higher education institution's Board of Governors, provided there is no conflict of interest. Mr. Speaker, I urge passage.
Are there other members desiring to speak to the passage of the bill? John for the 20th, Delegate Markham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would request a Rule 49. My wife is a member of the board of directors for one of the universities, colleges here in the state of West Virginia.
To the gentleman, it's appropriate for you to ask the question. I believe to the extent this would have an effect on her, because it really, as I understand it, deals primarily with individuals who live out of state that would be possibly appointed to these boards. So I'm not sure it would have a direct interest to her, but if it would, to the extent it might, or to any member who might have a family member that lives out of state that would be considered to these boards, it would be as a member of a class, and therefore you'd be directed to vote. Further members desiring to speak to the passage of the bill. Not the question for the House is the passage of the bill. Those in favor of passage will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, 94 ayes, 1 nay. Gentleman from the 39th, your vote did not. Gentleman votes in the affirmative. On this question, 95 ayes, 1 nay, 4 members absent, not voting. Majority of members present having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill pass. Clerk, please report the title.
Committee Substitute for House Bill 4251.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title is read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. Clerk, please communicate the action of the House to the Senate and request concurrence therein. Bills on second reading.
Committee Substitute for House Bill 2693 relating to state ownership of wildlife.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee Substitute for House Bill 4156 establishing the qualifications of full and part-time nursing school faculty members.
The gentleman from the 58th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to postpone action 1 day.
Gentleman 58th asks unanimous consent that action be postponed 1 day. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Action is postponed 1 day.
Committee Substitute for House Bill 4230 relating to credit for reinsurance.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee Substitute for House Bill 4329 requiring pawnbrokers to provide certain information to law enforcement agencies.
Jim. Are there amendments?
Delegate Martin moves to amend the bill. This is HFA Martin 2-5, number 2.
The gentleman from 46, Delegate Martin, asks unanimous consent to explain the amendment in lieu of having it read. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Gentleman from the 46.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The intent of this bill is to, for pawnbrokers to actually make a third-party system to any time that they purchase something that it would go into this third-party system. What my amendment does is it excludes guns from that. It excludes guns from that provision.
Will the other members desiring to speak to the adoption of the amendment? Gentleman from 27th, Delegate Schott.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think I understand what the sponsor's amendment seeks to do. Because the sponsor is not a member of the Judiciary Committee, this was not an amendment that we took up in Judiciary. We did have individuals to speak and answer technical questions at our committee who were unable or who are not given the opportunity to respond to this, and I'm a little bit concerned about the effect of this amendment. The purpose of the bill itself is to add a method by which an electronic database is established so that pawnbrokers will provide the information they normally provide in a written form or a paper form into this database, which would make it accessible not just close by locally, but in a broader geographic sense. My concern with the amendment, and therefore I'm going to have to half-heartedly but still oppose the amendment, is that it would not achieve the the purpose of the bill in that law enforcement officers located more than just a close proximity would not be able to get the paper copies. So for instance, someone in the Eastern Panhandle that's checking for contraband type firearms would not have access to the paper copies that might be retained by pawnbrokers, say, in Mercer County, where I'm from. So for that reason, I would urge rejection of the amendment.
John for the ninth, Doggett Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I speak to the bill?
Gentleman may speak to the amendment.
To the amendment, I'm sorry.
Gentleman may proceed.
I want to echo the sentiments of Mr. Chairman there. This bill, or this amendment, does the opposite of what the bill's intent. The bill's intent is to allow readable access to law enforcement to gain access to things that are stolen, used in crimes that are pawned. And as the chairman said, if you're not close to the pawn shop, it may take days in order for you to go get the written information to allow you to scan through it to see if the items that you're looking for is on there. I believe that this amendment is just downgrading and limiting the tools that we are trying to make available for law enforcement to allow them to do their job more effective and more efficiently. I'll just classify this as an anti-law enforcement amendment, and I urge rejection. Thank you.
The lady from the 49th, Doggett Summers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, or Mr. Speaker. Would the chairman yield for a question?
Gentleman yield. Gentleman yields.
Yes.
So if my house was broken into and my guns were stolen and they were taken to a pawn shop and I was hoping that the police would locate them, this would remove them out of that equation.
Well, there would still be a paper record. The question is, would it be added into the electronic database, which if your weapon turned up in, let's say, Martinsburg, the people up there would not have access to the paper records that were here where you are in Clarksburg, or am I right, Clarksburg?
You're close.
Close enough?
Yeah.
So that's the difference. There would still be a paper record. It's just the accessibility of that record by law enforcement who aren't located in close proximity to the pawn shop where that
So the electronic may be quicker so that they would locate that before the sale occurred by the time they got paper.
That's certainly possible, yes.
Okay, thank you.
John from 23rd, Doggett Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would have to concur with the gentleman from the 9th that this drastically reduces law enforcement capabilities. And in regard to some comments from the gentleman from the 46th, this does not create a third-party system by way of law enforcement using that as far as searching for stolen property. There are several different databases, online databases, that are available now. One element of those databases that are in use today is they do an automatic search of serial numbers of property that's entered into it. So it's almost an instantaneous notification that property may necessarily be stolen. With the amendment as it appears, it seems like it would benefit the thief in the state of West Virginia more so than it would be the victim. And I think there's probably a conflict if you just exempt firearms from the provision of Section 2A as it begins, the pawnbroker shall satisfy the requirements of Section 2 of this article. If you go back to the regular code section, 4726.2, it gives out specific method of how to handle firearms as far as recording the serial numbers, the description, things like that. And to take it maybe even a step further, firearms are stolen in some amount of frequency in the state of West Virginia. With a rich hunting history that we have in West Virginia, some of these firearms are handed down from generation to generation and are actually family heirlooms. And I don't think that we would want to lessen the opportunity for the recovery of these heirlooms. So I would have to speak against the amendment, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
John from 28, Doggett Cooper.
Mr. Speaker, I also would have to ask the members to reject this amendment. The sheriff just told me a few days ago that a house was broken into in our county, and he actually, because this system that he's already on, and by the way, this system, no matter what it is, will cost the pawnbrokers absolutely nothing but keying in the data. The law enforcement pays for this service, no matter who originates the service. Our law enforcement people are paying up to $2,500 a month for this nationwide. Anyway, this sheriff relayed to me that he had actually found a couple of heirloom guns, and I thank Delegate Miller for mentioning that, heirloom weapons in Alabama, because someone down there required this kind of reporting. So I urge you to reject this amendment, because with this amendment in place, this bill absolutely will not help as much as it needs to, because most of the time, things that are stolen and quickly pawned are guns. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
John from 63rd, Doug Folk.
The gentleman yield, Chairman.
Chairman yield. Chairman yields.
Yes.
Explain what the current, could you explain what the current procedure is when somebody takes a gun to a pawnbroker?
The pawnbroker has to record the name of the person, ask for ID. This is all in written form. The serial number. Is the pawnbroker required to be a gun dealer licensed? I'm sorry?
Is the pawnbroker required to be a gun dealer licensed by the ATF and all that stuff? And
I don't know the answer to that. I don't believe so, but I'm not sure.
do they take a photo of you when you're selling a gun?
I think they ask for a photo ID, but they don't have to take a photo. I'm not sure about that, but I don't think so.
Who's paying for this? Because the one gentleman over there in the corner said that there's no cost to the pawnbroker. Who's paying for this database then?
My understanding is law enforcement subscribes to it and pays a fee.
So what's the database called?
I can't answer that. Maybe the gentleman from the 23rd or the gentleman from the 9th may know the name of it. I don't know the name of it. Pardon? I understand the most common one is Leads Online.
Knees?
Leads.
Leads. Is that an acronym?
Like a lead on a crime.
Oh, okay.
It's LEADS.
Okay. But so all guns that are sold at a pawnbroker, sometimes rightfully obtained, because they're heirlooms, maybe selling a state or whatever, those would be listed in this database now?
Any item that a pawnbroker takes in that's now required to be recorded in paper form is also required to be entered into this database.
But currently, it just goes in paper form, and the pawnbroker, keeps the information on hand in case something ever comes up. Correct?
My understanding is the paper records have to be maintained for 3 years,
and including a photo of the person that sold it. Correct?
I think it's a photo ID, and probably is.
Well, they make a copy of the photo ID.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Further members desiring to speak before I recognize the gentleman to close. The gentleman from the 46th, close debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a reply to the gentleman from, I think it's Greenbrier, but he made a comment that's saying that this would not allow them to put this in the system. The pawnbrokers will still have the right to put this in the system. Also, when you go to buy a gun, they already have the background check, but this is putting it onto a third-party system. When you go to a third-party system, and I think we all know when you have these credit checks and everything else on the breaches that they have, I think that this amendment would stop a backdoor way of having gun control, and I just think that it's very important to have this in the bill, just simply for the fact that I just don't want somebody to go to sell a gun to a pawnbroker and say, hey, then that be breached and then that make it public. So I would urge passage, and I ask for the ayes and nays.
Roll call has been demanded. Is the demand sustained? 1, 2, please. Demand is sustained. Those in favor of the gentleman's amendment will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. This question, 14 ayes, 81 nays, 4 members absent not voting. Less than the majority of members present having voted in the negative, the amendment is rejected. Are there further amendments? Not to bill be engrossed and advanced to third reading. Bills on first reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2654, expanding county commission's ability to dispose of county or district property.
Bill be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 3020, relating to criminal penalties for the offenses of hunting, trapping, or fishing on the lands of another person.
Bill be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4175, preventing a requirement that an advanced practice registered nurse participate in a collaborative relationship to obtain payment.
Bill be advanced.
House Bill 4178, permitting certain portions of certified nurse aid training to be provided through distance learning technologies.
Bill be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4275, relating to the law enforcement authority of the director and officers of the Division of Protective Services.
Bill be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4359, relating to the removal of animals left unattended in motor vehicles.
Bill be advanced. Leaves of absence. Gentleman from the 58th.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. For our colleagues, delegates Brewer, Canestraro, and Ellington.
Without objection, leaves will be granted. Remarks by members of the House. The gentleman from the 60th, Delegate Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Had I been in my seat for the vote on House Bill 2662, I would have voted nay.
The gentleman's preference, had he been present, will be reflected in the journal. The gentleman from the 22nd, Delegate Eldridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to ask unanimous consent for the comments from the 23rd on the amendment on House Bill 4329 be printed in the appendix of the journal.
Without objection, remarks be printed in the appendix of the journal.
Also, Mr. Speaker, I would ask for the comments from the 32nd on House Bill 2662 be placed in the appendix of the journal.
Without objection, remarks be placed in the appendix of the journal. The lady from the 51st, Delegate Fleshauer.
Speaker, I rise today to celebrate something. Today is the 25th anniversary of the Family and Medical Leave Act. And it used to be that a lot of employers did not provide any coverage for anyone that had an issue with their own illness, with a pregnancy, or with an illness of a family member. So there were people that, you know, had to have a baby on the weekend. And it's really a wonderful thing that we now have this across our whole country. It doesn't apply to everyone. It applies to all public agencies, all public schools, and any private employer that has over 50 employees, so it's not total coverage, but it is a really important benefit that we have, where we treat each other the way we would want to be treated, that if our mother is seriously ill or our child is seriously ill, that we can take a little time off to cover that. It's something really worth celebrating, and I think I'm bringing this up because this is part of the Fighting for Working Families Week. This is the first day of the week. This is a nationwide effort of legislators in every state trying to pass progressive legislation that helps families get on an even playing field and provide for their families the way they would like to do. So that's all I wanted to say. So I think you should all have a toast to the Family Medical Leave Act tonight after work.
The gentleman from the 66th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I'd ask unanimous consent for the remarks of the gentlelady from the 65th regarding House Bill 2655 be printed in the appendix of the journal.
Without objection, they will be approved. The gentleman from the 36th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Over the weekend, ladies and gentlemen, the 36th District
the most talented sports district in the state, added to another accolade to its list when Rand, West Virginia's own Randy Moss became a first ballot Pro Football Hall of Famer. I'd just like to let the body be on notice and remember of all the Hall of Famers that come from my district and the delegate rows here. Thank you.
The gentleman from the 48th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Even though I didn't play basketball last week, from the sounds of things, you could have used him on your team. Anyway, I just wanted to make an announcement that up in Harrison County this evening at RCB High School, there's a multi-county meeting of Barber, Doddridge, Harrison, Lewis, Marion, Monongalia, Taylor, and Preston counties by the public employees and teachers and service personnel for anyone that would like to attend to hear their concerns. Thank you. 6 o'clock.
The gentleman from the 63rd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Not to be outdone by the gentleman from Rand, and congratulations are definitely in order. Shepherd College last night was represented at the Super Bowl with two gentlemen that are rookies, Trey Sullivan and Billy Brown, who just finished their collegiate seasons last year. So rookies got a Super Bowl ring, which I know it's got to be a first that two people from Shepherd got a Super Bowl ring in 1 year.
Miscellaneous business. Gentleman from the 58th.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Subject to announcements, I move the House adjourn until 11 a.m. tomorrow.
Call him Roger first. Roger Hanshaw. Call him first.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Republican members of the House will have a caucus in this chamber at 1:40. That's 20 minutes from now, 1:40. Thank you.
More Capite next.
The gentleman from the 35th.
Thank you now, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Roads and Transportation will meet at 2:25 in the Government Organization Room. The rather hefty agenda is posted. Thank you.
Whoever, now you're good. Whoever you want.
The gentleman from the 48th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a reminder, your Committee on Government Organization will meet today now at 4 p.m. in the House Government Organization Committee Room 215E. The agenda is posted.
The lady from the 32nd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This Wednesday at 7:30 a.m. in the Government Organization Committee Room, the Sportsmen's Caucus will be meeting for our annual legislative breakfast. So all of our members are welcome to join us at 7:30 a.m. on Wednesday. And if you are not yet a member and you want to join, we'd love to have you join our caucus. It's free. I think you get a free hat with it as well. So make sure you come out Wednesday morning at 7:30 in Government Organization.
The gentleman from the 64th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Committee on Finance will meet today at 3 p.m. for a budget hearing by the State Treasurer, and immediately following by the Secretary of State. The committee will consider legislation immediately following the budget hearing, and the agenda is posted.
The lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Your Committee on Health and Human Resources will meet tomorrow at 2 p.m. in room 215E, and the strike and insert amendment for House Bill 2014 will be available this afternoon if you'd like to review it in the House Health Committee office.
The gentleman from the 33rd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Based on other meetings, the Judiciary Committee will resume the posted agenda at 3:30 today in the committee room. 3:30. Thank you.
The gentleman from the 51st.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Your Committee on Education will meet today at 3:30 p.m. in the Education Committee room. The agenda is posted. Also, the Legislative Oversight Commission on Educational Accountability will meet this evening at 5 p.m. in the Senate Finance. The agenda is posted.
The lady from the 35th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. The Coal Caucus will meet in Government Org immediately after recess today, and lunch will be served.
The gentleman from the 15th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Industry and Labor will meet tomorrow at 10 a.m. in the House Committee Gov Org room, and the agenda will be posted.
The lady from the 16th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. On your desks, you should now have an invitation to the Speaker's Dinner. We were a little late getting them printed because we had to acquire the use of the Governor's Mansion. There will be a reception next Tuesday from 5 to 6 at the Governor's Mansion, and then the dinner will be here in its usual place outside at 6 p.m. I am taking reservations. Thank you.
The gentleman from the 39th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. The Committee on Retirement and Pensions will meet tomorrow at 4 o'clock in House Finance Committee room. The agenda is posted.
The gentleman from the 22nd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Firefighters and EMS will not be meeting today. We will be rescheduling that for a future date. Thank you.
The gentleman from the 42nd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. The Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources will be meeting in the morning at 8:30 a.m. You're requested to be there on time, and the agenda is posted.
The lady from the 59th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Political subdivisions will meet tomorrow at 1 o'clock in House Education. Thank you.
Are there further announcements? The gentleman from the 58th. Let's see. The question before the House is a motion by the gentleman from the 58th that the House stand adjourned until 11 a.m. tomorrow. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We are adjourned until 11 tomorrow.